Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining in. Today is episode 10 of Conversation series with Women of Substance, and this is a really special one because for those of you who have been following the series, even before it started, I did mention that the series was initiated by my parents in 2005, and at that time there were just four Indian classical artists, dancers, and musicians whom we interviewed. And out of four of them, two of them are on the panel this time as well, and one of them is our guest for today. So it's a very nostalgic feeling for me to interview Akka after all those years. I think it was 2005 when we had the first edition of the Conversation series. So it's going to be a very interesting session today. So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. And like I said, today is going to be a very exciting and interesting session for me especially because it is with someone whom I have been inspired by since I was a teenager. And I also had the wonderful opportunity of having a conversation with her as part of the first edition of Conversation series back in 2005. She is Srimati Abhinandana Kodanda, a Kuchipudi dance practitioner based in United Kingdom. She commenced her artistic journey at the age of 7 in Hyderabad, India. She had the privilege of learning and working with eminent gurus like Guru Shri Pasumarthi Venkateshwara Sharma garu, Guru Shri Vedantam Raghava garu, and the reputed world-renowned Guru Padmabhushan Dr. Vempati Chinna Satyam garu. And today she is one of the sought-after performers of her generation with more than 1,000 performances to her credit. She is a recipient of Cultural Personality of the Year Award, Real Business Magazine, Manchester, Woman of the Future Award, London, Star Academy Award for Cultural Excellence, Ugadi Puraskar by UL Telugu organization, Natya Hamsa, Pearl of Hyderabad, to name a few. Abhinandana Akka has also had the great honor of receiving an invitation to meet Her Majesty, Queen of England, in recognition to her community work. In addition to being a performing artist, she is an innovative, creative practitioner and articulate arts manager. Having worked in the creative sector for more than 20 years, she is the artistic director for Abhinandana Dance Academy, through which she imparts cultural education to around 100 students in the UK. She is also a cultural advisor for various community organizations across the country. She is a mother of two, and she continues to pursue her passion for dance through innovative projects, performances, and sharing skills. Her keen interest is in using creativity as a medium to break barriers and bring people together. She has an excellent academic record with an MBA and also a Master's in English Literature, and her focus remains constant, which is to present the beauty, grandeur, and spirituality of traditional Kuchipudi dance form to the future generations. So thank you so much, Akka, for accepting to be a part of the series, and I'm really excited to start our conversation. I see a lot of people have joined in to hear you speak, so please join in and we can start off. Hi, Akka.
Hi, Amy.
It's so good to see you. How are you?
Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And it feels really nostalgic. 15 years after, it's such a wonderful way of dotting the lines together.
Yes, indeed. And like I mentioned in my introduction, I was this nervous teenager who came to you with book and pen in hand with these questions scribbled down. And I don't think too much has changed from then because I'm equally nervous even now to ask you the questions that I've prepared to ask you. But I think I'm a little more composed now because I've got age on my side. But thank you so much, Akka, for accepting to be a part of the series. And just to start off, how has 2020 been for you?
Amy, I beg to differ from what you said. I've been watching your conversation series in the last 9 episodes, and the way you have handled it is amazing. There were a few technical glitches here and there. So composed, so calm, so matured, and I think brilliant, great going.
Thank you so much.
Okay. 2020 has been a mixed bag of emotions. It's been surreal because the way things things have been going, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of people lost their lives. But we have to stay hopeful and we have to get used to the new normal. But on a personal front, for me, I think it was a much needed forcible break, because the last 13 years that I've been here, I think I've been on an autopilot, especially in the dance field. There was, it was just on and on and on, then children, then work, everything together. But I think this was quite a break that was needed. A lot of virtual learning is going on. A lot of virtual teaching is going on. An amazing time to bond with the family as well.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with you, Akka. It's given all of us a lot of time to introspect and take a pause from our chaotic schedules.
Absolutely.
But to start off, Akka, I would like to know a little bit about your journey as a dancer. How did it all begin? Were you always interested in dancing, and why Kuchipudi?
Right. So I was born in a cultural family. So my parents have done incredible work in their respective fields to nurture artists, nurture themselves. So my father is a poet, and he's a doctorate in Telugu literature. And my mother was a Bharatanatyam dancer, but later on took up a professional comparing field. So it was very organic for them to send me and my brother and sister to a music and a dance school, like any parent would send their child to a school, a normal academic school. So it was as natural as that. So while we were going to school, in the evenings we would attend music, dance, and we would follow our parents to every cultural event that they would take us. We would be backstage looking at the artists, helping them out, because my father had this Rasamai organization. It is 50 years old now, so much before I was born. So that was the kind of atmosphere I grew up in. So very enriching culturally. And I initially started learning Bharatanatyam from a music college lecturer, but then he moved, he got transferred and he moved. And that's when my mother got in touch with Sri Pasumarthi Venkateshwara Sharma garu. And that's where I've done my basics of Kuchipudi dance. And then my further learning, my advanced learning happened with Vedantam Raghava garu. And I'm so glad that it was Kuchipudi, because I think the kind of bond, the kind of, the way I could embrace that dance form, I don't know if I could have done it with any other dance form, because what Kuchipudi offers is amazing.
True. I agree with you, Akka, totally. But Akka, were you always sure about taking up dancing as a professional career choice? Because as I mentioned in my introduction, you hold an MBA as well as a master's in English literature. You hold these degrees as well. So when did that switch happen?
Right. So, Amy, I was always interested in academics and I was very keen about commerce. I always wanted to do my MBA, Business Administration. And because of my flair for literature, I did masters in English literature as well. And after my MBA, I got into corporate field. Yes. And while I was doing my corporate job, that's when I did my masters in English literature as well.
Okay.
But alongside all this, I was professionally giving performances across India and internationally. So it was like I was traveling on these two tracks like a train, and both were equally important for me. There was never a situation where I was told that corporate life or education, academic education, was more important than dancing or anything of those sort. They never made me feel that dancing was inferior. They never asked me to. My parents never asked me to take a break from dancing when I had exams.
Right.
So that's the kind of psyche I grew up with. For me, dance and academics was equal, and it was okay for me to take both of them at a professional level. And at school and college, our professors was very supportive. They were very supportive, and they sent me to represent college at university level. I remember representing Usmania University at regional, national level, got back a trophy for them.
Wow.
And I'm sure you relate to this because you've done a lot of such stuff. And you are made to feel special when you're a dancer or a sports person at school.
Yes.
You get that kind of a special treatment, and your press clippings are on the notice boards, you are in the newsletter, you have these dance photographs as cover pages for your magazines, and then by default you are performing at every college event.
Correct.
So my studies and dance has always gone hand in hand, and I think I'm quite proud of that.
Right. And I must add over here, Akka, this is one thing that I very instantly connected with you, because that was something I always wanted to do in life as well, and I still try to strike that balance. But being in the corporate field myself, I do feel that working in the corporate field has its benefits, and it helps you as an artist as well. So did you also experience a similar feeling of working in the corporate and having a benefit as an artist?
Absolutely, Amy. I have to say that because straight after my college, I got into Satyam Computers,
Yes.
a software company with about 16,000 employees. And I only worked there for about 2-3 years before moving to this country. But those 2 years were so enriching. There's such a huge, so many set of skills that you learn.
Yes.
In fact, my MBA professor always used to say, when we used to sit and read in our library, he used to say, Abhi, that's good. That's good that you're reading through all that. But the most important skill that you learn is not in those books, and that is people management. And you only get that when you go out into the field, when you go interact with people, when you work in the corporates. So my learning curve was really, really steep when I worked with Satyam Computers, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity that I had. A lot of transferable skills, Amy. You learn to strategize. You learn negotiation skills as an artist, which you have to. You learn presentation and communication skills because you have to pitch your ideas to people for them to get convinced and understand and be at the same wavelength that you are. And as artists and as people belonging to creative sector, we engage people, we engage young people, we inspire them, both the present and the future generations in a very positive way. So I think we constitute to the GDP of the nation as well.
Yes.
So I think that's something you learn from your management education. We're all a humble lot and we feel a bit secondary sometimes, but hey, why? Why do you ask for sponsorships, ask for collaborations? Because you are worth it. We are contributing to the world in a very, very positive way. I think that's the kind of mindset that we fall into when you get into your corporate sector.
Yes. And I think it's a great thing to have, Akka. I think it's an added benefit, I feel.
It is, yes, certainly, yes.
Akka, you are somebody who's given over 1,000 performances, performed in a number of venues globally. So for you as an artist, when you perform for such a wide range of audiences, how is your headspace? How important is it for you to connect with your audiences? Or are you the type of artist who is disconnected from your audience because you're so involved in your dance?
Amy, I've performed for varied audience, like you said, dance festivals, performed at temple towns, performed at performing arts colleges, special needs schools, hospitals, charitable events, carnivals. I mean, varied audience. The kind of audience are spread across the spectrum of not knowing anything about dance to having extreme knowledge and they challenge you when you perform.
Right.
So it is very imperative that we choose pieces and we go to a length of working on what we are doing to connect with them. And as long as it is within the framework. Um, I always felt it's not about how much we know, but what are we doing with what we know? So it's an endless ocean. It's a bottomless ocean, dancing. So the deeper you go, you still don't find the bottom. So it's not about how much have you learned? It's about how have you diversified your creative output? How were you able to put it forth to the audience, which was important? I mean, if I were performing at Ravindra Bharati with learned audience sat in front of me,
Yes.
I don't make an eye contact with the audience. I look elsewhere, completely involved, and then perform a piece. So that's the kind of space we are in at that moment. But coming here, I realized that we need to have a connect with the audience because we need to let them see beyond our costume, our jewelry, our makeup, because a lot of foreigners, that's where their connection stops. Because, oh wow, magenta color, yellow color, orange costume, beautiful, amazing anklets, dancing on a plate, and vivid eye movements. And that's where it stops. I don't think they understand beyond the comprehensive art form that we're trying to present. I mean, this is one set of audience. We also have audience on the contrary, foreign audience who come backstage and ask you, which book is this verse from? Because when I had been to India 15 years back, that is the book I picked up and I read through the whole thing. So there is, there are different types of audience that you perform for. And I think I'll be able to better explain this with examples because we had performed for the Olympic torch procession. So the torch procession happened throughout the country. They came to different parts of the country. The procession followed and we were asked to perform. And okay, what do we perform? We didn't want to make it another Jatiswaram or a Tilana fast-paced Nritta piece, which will just touch and go, and then they'll just remember us for photographs. So we created this whole musical piece of Deepanjali to present a tribute to the Olympic torch that was arriving. So another very important twist to our traditional dancing that we have done, which I always like to mention, is when the Tour de France cyclists, so they are a bunch of cyclists who travel from France to the neighboring countries and go back to France. It's a bicycle race. So they traveled through Halifax, a place called Halifax, and then we were asked to present a performance. So there is an Indian dance company called Annapurna, based in Halifax. And the artistic director, Shanta Rao, had this amazing idea of, okay, Kuchipudi has this beautiful traditional temple dance form called Simhanandini, where you dance on, I mean, you know about it, where you dance on a canvas, create a picture of a lion, which is the vehicle of goddess Durga. So why don't we, I mean, that skill is transferable. Why don't we draw a bicycle as an ode to all the cyclists who are traveling across from Halifax? So we did that, and it turned out to be such an amazing way of putting through our traditional art form to modern audience.
Correct. Right.
Yes. And I also work for performing arts colleges. So we had to prepare for a competition, and they wanted to present a classical dance, not a Bollywood one, but a classical dance, thankfully. So we created this piece on the Indian version of Pirates of Caribbean, a beautiful flute version. And of course, they came back with a trophy. So yeah, it's about how you deal with each of the audience. There are floating audience where you just have to do tarangam to impress them. So yes.
Right. But Akka, if I may ask you, as a solo performer, if I could ask you if you could recall now a performance at a venue wherein you felt like you had an out-of-body experience, because I think these are moments that we as artists kind of, really cherish. So, is there anything that comes to your mind now?
Um, Amy, I can think of one performance which I did at the Raj Bhavan, the governor's bungalow, and I was, I think I was doing my MBA at that time,
Okay.
and select audience who were very well versed with dancing, who knew what Kuchipudi was, especially in Hyderabad, how it was, and I was given this 40 minutes to perform. And I think that's when I only presented the normal pieces that we have learned. But even when you're presenting those, you have this wonderful feeling of, oh my God, you don't see the audience, it's all blurred. And you feel, oh my God, this kind of feeling, nothing else gives. No material stuff or nothing gives this kind of a joy. So yes, I think I remember that. That was back in probably 2006.
Okay.
Yeah.
Akka, we all know that you are the artistic director of Abhinandana Dance Academy. So how is it when you deal with Indian students versus foreign students? How is your teaching methodology? Do you have something different when you're approaching different students, or how is the response also that you get from students of different cultures?
Right. Yes, I do have students who are from different backgrounds, and mostly the Indian students would like to learn and perform because they want to be connected to their roots.
Correct.
And they want to learn cultural information through dance, because dance provides so much: music, dance, different instruments that are played during dancing. So that's their kind of aim, and to be involved in their cultural heritage. But when it comes to foreign students, we have a lot of curiosity, a lot of fascination, and a lot of interest to learn the Eastern art form.
Yes.
So what you would normally do extra for foreign students is immensely work on their body language and explain to them each and every bit of culture. Why am I putting my hand like this when I'm sad? Why can't I just be sad like this? Every little nuance has to be explained to them. So if I were to give an example of one of my students called John Whittle, Professor John Whittle. So he had done his basic learning of Kuchipudi back in India, and he moved to UK, and he learned from me for about 4 to 5 years. Okay. And then he was at a stage where he would give a full-fledged performance. Apart from the normal pieces like Purvarangam, Jatiswaram, Kuluvaitiva, he had the courage to learn Bhamakalapam. Wow. So, yeah, it was a huge exercise for us to bring a costume, wig, and that was all at one level. But explaining the nuances of Bhama was extremely challenging for both of us, because the amount of homework he did was fantastic. So it was a surprise element on the day where the second half he dressed up as Satyabhama, the Stree Vesham.
No problem. Yeah.
Can you still see me, Amy?
I can still see you and hear you. We heard, I could hear you until you were talking about him dressing up as Satyabhama.
All right. So he was in the Satyabhama costume, and we had to bring these inferences of Elizabethan theatre, how men used to dress up as women in those days, and how the tradition is similar to what we have as Kuchipudi tradition is also similar.
Yes.
So it was quite a thrilling experience for both of us, and he presented a whole margam with Bhama Kalapam also as a part of that. So it was amazing. And when I have to talk about the methodology that I use, there are a few things that I'd probably like to say. To start is, I do about 12 hours of teaching in a week. And it's incredible the amount of learning you go through when you teach. And I wonder why teaching is not a part of learning. So we are not allowed to teach till we are, what, 40? Because it's a taboo.
Yeah.
And you are one of those who has broken that glass ceiling. You started teaching when you were 17. And I totally understand how much of learning we go through when you teach. So as a part of my teaching methodology, I make sure the senior students definitely assist me with teaching and then take independent lessons as well. So, and they always come back to tell me that when we look at the students, we understand what mistakes we are doing. So, yes.
Right.
And the second thing is, we again have this blockage that you're not allowed to perform till you learn a set of 8 pieces. But
Right.
that wouldn't work. That wouldn't motivate the students. They wouldn't stay motivated because, again, dancing on stage is such a great learning process. When you stand on the stage in front of so many audience, you're learning to be confident, you're learning to be smiling even when you're nervous inside.
Yes.
Space management, stagecraft, everything. So straight after the children finish their jatis, so I start teaching them small pieces, which gives them courage to go and perform.
Right.
And I also do this silly concept from my MBA called a SWOT analysis. Yeah, so it is an assessment of strengths and weaknesses of a student.
Right.
So what I always thought was you shouldn't, it's not a machinery. An organization, an academy is not a machinery where your output is students. Each student has to be very unique. Yes. Because they have their style of presenting. I mean, the way I walk back and the way you walk back can be very different. Right. And I think we need to keep that uniqueness, and especially when they're developing as solo artists, it's so important to just keep that uniqueness that they have got and retain them. Right. So that's kind of my methodology of teaching. And I happen to do a lot of workshops. I invite artists from music field, from percussion field, from other dance forms like Bharatanatyam, Mohiniyattam, Abhinaya lessons. So the students get to learn something that I'm not teaching them. Somebody else teaches them. And especially during the lockdown, we did a lot of this because it was bombarded with virtual learning. So yeah, yes. So yeah, did I answer everything?
You did, Akka, and I totally resonate with whatever you said, because I do try doing the same thing with my kids as well, and
yes.
I think they enjoy it. They like being on stage. They like being given a responsibility of teaching their juniors. So it's great.
Absolutely, yes. It gives them a sense of empowerment.
Yes,
it gives them a sense of empowerment. Yes.
And sometimes they come up with such interesting, creative ideas which I would have never thought of as well. So
yes.
Yeah, empowerment sure does help.
Yes.
Akka, coming to the Guru Sishya Parampara, which is very vital in Indian classical dancing traditions, what is your take on it? Like, how do you think it has evolved over the years?
I think I've kind of explained about it, how it was back when you wouldn't be allowed to perform for a long time. And I have not done any, I've not really gone to a college to learn dancing. It was my teachers. Yes. And I've not gone to an institute to learn ever. It was always teachers who came home. Yes. And I think that has given me this positive attribute where I don't compete myself with my peers. I always competed with myself. Right. So I think I'll take that as a positive attribute, because it is the field is such that you get sucked into it and you can get into those traits where you are competing yourself. Somebody has done that, why not me, etc., etc. But here the competition has always been within myself. So the Guru Sishya Parampara there has given me that positiveness. And over the years, when I teach my students, I am a friend to them. Yes. I have a very friendly relationship with them. And it's really beautiful because they are born and bred here. So the whole thing of being extremely humble towards your teacher, or that doesn't exist.
Right.
The equation is very different. So I teach you and I learn from you as well. So like how you just mentioned that when you empower them, they come back to you with so many new ideas. So yeah, that's I think that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Akka. I think it's a wonderful relationship to develop with your students, be more of a friend and disciplined as well at the same time.
Yes.
Akka, I must ask you about your experience meeting with the Queen. I mean, it sounds so amazing. How was that?
Right. So I probably have to tell you a little about how it all happened. So in the last 13 years that I was here, I mean, back in India, I was on a spree of performing. I was a out and out performing artist. I think it's after coming here, I realized that whenever I performed, there were people coming asking me, would you be able to teach? We would want our children to learn this art form. And nobody knew what Kuchipudi was because it wasn't as popular. So this whole need of popularizing Kuchipudi and getting into teaching field and all that happened. And I remember buying like 20 books from Hyderabad Central University and Telugu University and bringing them here, dusting them, opening them, because it was a new chapter in my life as well. And I didn't know if I'll be enjoying it, but there was no looking back. It was amazing. So in the last 13 years, I had this wonderful opportunity of working with many community groups. And I think I realized that dancing is such a wonderful cultural tool to bring all these communities together.
Yes.
Call it community cohesion or breaking barriers through dance or unity in diversity. All this was possible through dance.
Right.
And I worked with varied groups, varied age groups, groups with different abilities, groups with different purpose. And I think Indian dance could make a small difference in their life. So for doing all this, I was identified as a cultural champion, and I was invited to the Queen's garden party.
Right.
So when I was told about it, I kept really calm because I didn't believe. I was not sure. I was like, really? Because it's most of the times the army generals, the very senior medical professionals and people who've been in those very prime fields of profession who were invited to these garden parties. So I waited till I got the invitation, and then I saw it to believe that, oh wow, this is wonderful. And it was not just about me going there, but me going there with this flag of Indian dance, which I think somewhere inside felt amazing that, okay, so you are from a diverse community, from a minority, but the work that you did has been recognized. So it was amazing. And another amazing part, Amy, was there was a dress code. So I had my wonderful friends helping me with what I'm wearing, a fascinator.
Wow.
And we're always in our pattu saris, wearing heavy jewelry, trying to look like a dancer. And then you have the wonderful opportunity to get into an out and out English outfit. So it was really good. Very humbling it was, yes.
Amazing, Akka. You're such an inspiration. I'm going to stop saying that because otherwise I'll just keep repeating myself after every response of yours. But now I would like to ask you, Akka. You have inspired so many people, so many young students, so many young adults. Who inspired you? And who still does inspire you? What inspires you?
Yeah, Amy, I think I might sound a bit cliched, but then it's a fact. Fact will remain. So I am extremely inspired by the mental strength that my mother has. And there was never a situation where she sat in front of me and told me, this is how you should be. There was never a lecture or a monologue. It is all through passive learning. So you just look at them dealing with situations, being mentally very strong, being a go-getter, being a fighter. And I think personally, a part of it is what I've got from my mother. And contrary to that, my father is extremely calm and composed. Even when things are on fire, he has this thing of being able to be very calm and composed. And I think that's another trait which is very inspiring for me. And we know when we have this huge performance, the music doesn't work, the lighting doesn't work, and one student is stuck in the traffic, how we need to be calm and composed. So these are all those little traits. And I have some more to add to the list. My sister and brother, they have these amazing parenting skills. And I think that's a huge inspiration for me as a parent, because I look at the way they treat their children, how they raise them, and I feel that, oh, this is something I'm really, really wanting to be like. So, yes. And as artists, we work way too hard. We are always about getting into that point of excellence. We're working hard, we're working on so many things. And I have always been like that, perfectionist, wanting to do so much more than what I can take on. And I think it's my husband who kind of taught me to take a break, to switch off. Nice. Because we never switch off. If we come back home, back of our mind, the dance is still going on. Correct. Or we have this music running in our ears all the time. Yeah. And the importance of taking a break and relaxation is something I've kind of learned from him. So more on that, that's more on the personal front. But dancing wise, my guru, Sri Vedantam Raghava, is a meticulous technique person. He's extremely strict with his technique, postures, and he's from the Kuchipudi village, the son of the soil who's got Kuchipudi in his DNA. Right. He was very strict, right. Very soft in his heart, but he's very strict as a teacher. And the journey that I had with him was amazing, and he's extremely inspiring choreography-wise. And I was always very inspired with Anupama, Dr. Anupama Kailash. We have met through her. Yes. And the way she puts forth her productions or her presentation of concepts are very aesthetic and very beautiful. So she has been an inspiration. And last but not the least, for the kind of leader and for the kind of example that she has set, growing up, I have watched Dr. Ananda Shankar perform, and she has been an iron lady, amazing lady with not just about dance, but her leadership skills, but for the fact that she has established, I can dance and I can be a professional at the same time. Absolutely. And how she derived strength out of dance through hard times is something I think we all need to imbibe. So these have been my inspirations. There is a lot we get inspired out of little things around us, and then all these positive inspirations, I think we should all put it all together and then take it forward.
Very, very true, Akka, and I agree with the fact that it's important to take the positives out of everything that we come up in life. Yes. And I do know, Akka, that you have two very positive sources in your life in the form of your two beautiful sons. So can you tell us a little bit about getting back to dancing post-pregnancy? How was that experience?
Right. So, Amy, I had two crazy pregnancies. I had hyperemesis and I was throwing up till the day I gave birth. It was crazy. And I think it's important that we have focus outside what is going on. We need an anchor which keeps us going when something like this is going on. Otherwise, we'll keep sitting and brooding over what is going on. There's no looking back. Once you're pregnant, the next 9 months will go on. So dancing happened almost till a week before I gave birth. Oh. And it's not for anything else. It's not something that I would like to say, hey, I have done this. I have done it only for myself because it was such a great anchor. And then after I gave birth, 3-4 weeks after, I slowly got back to dancing. And I think if we do what we love doing, there is nothing called postpartum depression, postpartum issues. I think we can handle it much better. If we try to get back to normal, if we try doing, if we are in that mental state where we are able to come back to normal. And yes, that's how it has been. And then one of my friends who is a senior dancer, she told me, do you now understand what was Krishna's idea of showing the whole world in his mouth to his mother? And then I was like, wow, yes. That's what it is. So my older son never used to sleep, and we had sleepless nights for about a good 2 years. And but whatever, and I had this question always coming up to me. You don't have a daughter? Is that okay? I'm like, I mean, why do you ask that question? Because if it's a daughter, then she can start dancing. I was like, okay. If I have a daughter, if she doesn't want to dance, she would probably not. And if my boys would like to dance, I would let them dance, of course. So there are no gender-based traits. Both the boys are amazing. They're so affectionate, so kind, and all the traits that you would normally use for a girl.
Right.
They would do everything. They're very kind. They're very gentle. They're very caring. They always come and ask me, Mama, did you have your food? So far, it's been like that. So I think it's about how we raise them. It's about how we tell them that you have to be affectionate. It's something you teach. It's a part of their upbringing. And Ahan is my older one. He's 9-year-old. Younger one is 4. Ahan is also an artist. He wrote a book, and he raised about £2,500 for the children's wing of the hospital. So yes, quite proud of both of them, and they are undoubtedly joy of my life.
Yes, I'm sure, Akka, and they're beautiful boys, and God bless them. Akka, I would now like to ask you a little bit about 2020. You know, it's been a tough year for a lot of people, and especially for the younger generation, younger adults. You know, it becomes difficult for people to handle tough situations. So could you tell us a little bit about your take on facing a tough situation and coming out of it stronger? Your message on this topic.
Right. Amy, I'll tell you my strategy of how I deal with challenges.
Right.
I have this little toolbox. I think we should all have this little toolbox. It's an imaginary toolbox. It's not real, but I have these little things in those toolbox which help me deal with challenges. It could be a person whom I can speak to when I'm feeling low. It could be a dinner date with a friend where I don't have to talk about any of my problems, but I just have a meal, feel refreshed, and come back. It could be just sitting and watching a film. Like, for me, it's always been Pursuit of Excellence or Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. So, so they're all those little mood lifters. It could be a hot shower. It could be listening to a particular song which makes you feel better. These are all initial things that we need to do before facing the challenge itself. I think it really calms you down. It brings you back to the perspective and then lets you think that this will go away. Let's be positive. Let's be in a state where we are able to adapt to the change that is coming. There's going to be new normal. It's fine. Let's deal with it. It's not the end of the world. So that's how I do when I'm upset, when I come back home, and if there's something I have to do, it's one of these. It's generally a bombarding call to my mom or my sister, or sit and chat with Praful, or all these little things. They sound very simple, but they actually make a lot of difference, I personally feel.
I'm sure. I totally love the idea of having an imaginary toolbox. It's such a wonderful way of putting it across. My final question for you, Akka, is any final thoughts or advice to young, aspiring classical dancers?
I think before I move on to speak about that, I think am I allowed to say a few words about my host today, Amy, the wonderful, wonderful person that she is. I still remember the interview we had 15 years back, set of questions. I was as nervous as you were. And you are such an inspiration for girls or boys who have taken up dance. You have broken the glass ceiling. You didn't belong to the community, which was the so-called approved community to take up Indian classical dancing. And you've done all this, Abhi. You are such an inspiration. So I would say, don't live in the shadow of people's judgment. People will say, don't do this, don't do that, this is not right. You are a 17-year-old, you cannot teach, you've just finished your jadis, you cannot perform. Do what your heart lets you do. And then, like I told you, I had people telling me, if you are doing two professions at the same time, they won't take you as a serious dancer. I have taken myself as a serious dancer and nothing else matters, and I get great joy out of it. The second thing, okay, so be like Amy, people, be like Amy.
Oh, you're beautiful, thank you.
And the second and most important thing for us is we are going through such hard times. Let us look after ourselves. Stop this competition. Why do we have to compete with each other? We all have our own space. It's a large ocean. Look after each other. Artists, some are full-time artists who are financially troubled. Support them. If you have some kind of a finance that you can support them with, support them. Help each other. Support each other. Push each other up. Lift each other up. And I think that will probably make the world a better place. Really hope the next generations will have a nicer world to live in, nicer Mother Earth to live in. So, yes, those are probably my parting words.
So beautiful, Akka. You've put everything together so wonderfully, and I have to say this one last time, that you've been such an important person in my life. You probably don't know it, but since the day I met you, you have been inspiring me, and I have been observing your work and the way you present yourself, the way you carry yourself. It's just so inspiring. And thank you so much for not just inspiring me, but so many people. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for thinking me worth of being on this series. And it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Akka. Take care and have a nice day. Thank you so much.
That's precious. Bye-bye.